Welcome back to Dominating a Man's World, the podcast dedicated to highlighting women in male-dominated industry, brought to you by the disaster experts at Bulldog Adjusters. Today, we actually have a very special guest. We have a woman who does not get knocked down easily or at all. Her name is Gail Gensler. Go ahead, Gail. Tell us a little bit about, what you do. Tell us everything you do, how you got started, and what you do currently.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to meet you and be on your show and grateful and I'm excited. So let me tell you a little bit about me. This past January, I turned 60 and my mantra is 60 so what? Because I truly embody the phrase that age is just a number. I actually have two careers going at this time, one in a very male-dominated industry, the automotive industry, which I've been in for 35 years. I was 12 when I started. And then I also have a second career. I'm a pro-aging fitness enthusiast, changing the narrative about aging through fitness and embracing a healthy lifestyle. So I'm rocking both things at the same time.
The automotive portion, you said it was very, very male dominated. Tell me a little bit about that. What did you do in the automotive industry?
I got into the automotive industry by virtue of a dear uncle that I had who was a legend in the industry in New York City, which is where I'm from. And I entered that about 35 years ago, knowing absolutely nothing, but just going in with a whole lot of inner fortitude and confidence and self-worth. And I had great mentors, my brother being one of them, my uncle being the other one. And I really just pulled on my innate sales competencies. And it was amazing, amazing. They were the most amazing business years of my life. I always say if I knew now what I knew then, I would have made triple what I made, and I made a beautiful living, which gave me everything that I have today. But it is a very male-dominated industry. There were a few women in the organization that I was in New York City, which was a lot, actually. Most didn't have any women at all. So I was fortunate that my few coworkers were women. So again, it was easy to bond with them and have a little backup support because it is a definitive type A personality business. You need to have tremendous sales skills, be very persuasive, a lot of talent, not necessarily discipline, but a lot of talent. Along with that comes these enormous egos,
Yes.
which, okay, I get it. So I had to battle a lot of those enormous egos. But in true Gail Gensler fashion, I don't care. I never did. I never paid attention. I was there to do me and be me for me because I need to earn a living. And
No,
I
of
don't really
course.
care.
Do you have any particular experiences or stories you want to share of, where you maybe came on top? You kind of showed them us women, we have power, we have the strength to, dominate as well.
They had brought in a sales manager from a dealership in New Jersey who was an interesting guy, great looking guy, but of course that only inflated his ego even more. And he was inflamed that here I was, a young woman doing so well and so well respected in my dealership and in the organization, and that drove him crazy. And we did butt heads a few times, so much so that one time it was really intolerable. And I said to the general manager, who I was very friendly with at the time, I said, I think I need to leave for today. I just need to extricate myself from this environment. It's very toxic. And I actually left and went shopping to Bloomingdale's, which was a glorious afternoon. But, it was the first of many, and really, my self-confidence carries me through. I really don't let anybody stop me. I don't care what your gender is, because I've actually come across some women bullies too in this industry. I'm there for myself. I'm there to earn a great living and utilize my inherent competencies. And I'm certainly not going to let any egos, particularly the male egos, push me around. And people know that. I've been with my current company for almost 22 years. And I've been in this industry down here in Miami for so long at this point that a lot of people know me, and they absolutely know that I'm a force to be reckoned with. And you don't want to battle me because you're not going to win.
Well, that's exactly why I started with saying, you do not get knocked down. So I know you mentioned there a little bit, it's definitely about, who you are. It's having that strength, having that, that confidence in yourself to not let yourself, get put down. It's good what you did where you said, you got out of this situation. You went shopping with it, which is even better.
Retail
But
therapy always works.
yes. So it's the fact that, you kind of put yourself out of that situation. I think it showed him. I think it shouldn't matter if you were a young woman or if you were just the fact that, men always have these big egos, especially when you said that he looked a little bit good or something. So yeah, no, I could definitely see. So I know that you're doing pro aging now as well. How did you transition from the automotive to the pro aging?
I'm doing both of them simultaneously. This was a vision and a journey that started when I was 58. It was an idea that was sort of germinating in my mind, and I found that there was a tremendous space on Instagram of midlife women. There's a few men, not many, but midlife women who had the same pro-aging mindset that I did. And it gave me some ideas. I wasn't quite didn't have the clarity that I have now at the beginning, as usually will happen. But I started exploring within the space, and I ultimately I have a great team. I have a social media team. I have a publicity agent. I have an editor. And at this point now, 1 year and a few months into it, because I started in March of 2020 specifically at the beginning of the pandemic, I wanted to do that because I felt that the space was clear. There were a lot of people who were in that space as brand ambassadors or influencers, as they were really called early on, and they were not going to be in the space anymore. So it was the time for me to make my entry. And my goal is to break down institutional ageism. And there's a lot of inclusivity right now, right? It's top of mind. Everybody talks about body inclusivity, size inclusivity, color inclusivity, ethnicity inclusivity, and yet ageism still exists. So my goal is to break down those barriers and make brands realize that midlife women are a force to be reckoned with. And I'm the one that's going to break that barrier. And I'm published every month in several magazines. I'm on a lot of podcasts like this. I'm a brand ambassador for several brands, a model for several brands. It's been a great week. I've landed on a few people's websites and in several magazines this week. So it's been a great week. I'm very excited, very blessed and grateful. So I'm really doing both things simultaneously. Up at 4:30, I'm in the gym boxing at 6 a.m. I'm at work at 8. I'm home at 4:30, and I'm doing wonderful things like these, which lets me explore the other side.
That's a very busy day. Um, I know you mentioned that there's not a lot of companies out there that kind of include like or basically market like elder women or anything like that. I know you mentioned that. I know we had a previous conversation before. You kind of mentioned something like that. So that's your goal. You're trying to get to these bigger companies to show them, age is nothing but a number, basically.
Right, right. I'm really trying to break down institutional ageism as opposed to brands pigeonholing midlife women into this archaic stereotype of what we're supposed to look like, the type of dress we're supposed to be wearing, the type of things we're supposed to be purchasing, the type of activities we're supposed to be doing. Instead of allowing us to be pigeonholed into that, I want to break that down because that certainly doesn't describe me, not at all. Not at all. I'm still in beast mode boxing every day, doing HIIT classes, spinning, lifting weights, and running at a crazy great schedule.
That's actually great. I do know within this whole pro aging, fitness, fitness is also a very male dominated area as well. Do you come across any struggles there within like the fitness area?
Not at all. It's not even something that ever crossed my mind. Fortunately, as time has gone on and fitness has broadened its demographics, both from an age perspective, a gender perspective. I mean, obviously, there are certain modalities that men are more drawn to than women traditionally, such as very heavy weightlifting and things like that. But in the type of fitness environments that I'm in, everybody's there. All genders are represented. So that's a pretty equal opportunity environment, which is great.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, so with through this podcast, that's basically what I'm trying to obtain within our industry. In the industry that we work in, it's a lot of contractors, roofers, plumbers, storm restoration. It's very male dominated. So, what the podcast, the idea behind this to bring in the women, and let them know like you could do this as well. You don't have to be, it's not only a man on a roof. You could be on the roof too if you know how to do it. So that's the whole idea behind the podcast, and not just behind our industry, but behind every other industry as well, where the women don't get a voice. That's the idea behind it all.
Which really is the same message that I am speaking and writing about when I'm talking about a pro-aging mindset. My goal is for you to look at me and say, wow, this woman is 60 and look at her go, she's still in beast mode. And it's the same thing when it comes to gender. Never ever should a woman look at any workplace environment and say, that's not for me because I'm a woman. We have everything going for us: intellectual capacity, drive, ambition, everything that
I
you
agree.
need to succeed in a male-dominated industry. That's ridiculous.
No, I agree. So, Gail, at what point did you get the strength and say, I want to do this? I wanna go against ageism. I want to go against the pro aging. I want to do this. At what point in your life?
It started when I turned 58, and it really was, it just came out. That's one of the beautiful things about midlife is it's a time, if you're at all a self-aware person, to sort of take a step back and say, what else can I do to add value back to society? What is the legacy I want to leave behind, which is an article I wrote that was just published again yesterday. And I did decide that the legacy that I want to leave behind is to break these barriers, so women such as yourself, many years younger than me, don't have the struggles that we have today. And you're not destined to be pigeonholed into any particular type. You don't, when they show commercials on television and they're showing people my contemporary, it's for drugs, right? They're taking something because something's wrong with them, as opposed to promoting a healthy lifestyle, which would then eliminate disease, right? The objective is to live a long disease-free life.
Of course.
And so these things came to me as I went on my journey and realized that what I wanted to do for myself, which is to model and be a brand ambassador and align myself with brands that really resonate with me, was really something more. There were many more layers of it underneath. And that's inspiring and motivating people like you who are younger so that you don't fear the years, but also motivating my peers to never take their wellness for granted and awakening the brands, opening up their eyes. I know that they think about future generations and the dollars that are to be spent with younger people, but the truth is there's a lot of money sitting right in front of them and they're not recognizing that that's the low-hanging fruit. And why wouldn't you capitalize on that now? I've been working my whole life. I'm a homeowner. If I want to go out and buy a pair of $120 leggings or $200 sneakers, fortunately, thank goodness, I can afford that if I so wanted to. And they're ignoring that we have tremendous buying power. The percentages are off the rails. If you read the statistics, it's mind-blowing. You just go, why aren't you looking at this? And so that's my goal, and that's what developed as I went.
You know what? It actually makes me wonder, like, why don't they? It makes me want to ask them, like, hey, why don't you? I want an answer now. You know what I mean? So is it safe to say you wanted to be a model when you were younger? Like, when you were 15, what did you had in mind that you were going to be right now?
Not at all. I mean, that's not something, I didn't have a particular calling at that time in my life. I got into the fashion industry initially because I've always loved fashion. I've always had a good inherent sense of style. So I got into that first
Yeah.
and stayed in that industry until my family yanked me out and said, I know you love what you're doing, but it's time for you to make real money. Let's go. And I got into the automotive industry again. It's not for a love of the automotive industry in and of itself, but it's a people business just like yours, where you're dealing with people all day long and
Oh yeah.
processes and procedures, and you're putting deals together and you're making things happen. And that's really what it's about. It's about driving business. It's about leading my staff, for example, to places that they wouldn't go without me, showing them how much they're capable of, what they can do, and allowing them the freedom to explore that within the very safe environment of the room that I manage, which is the Business Development Center. So it's really a people business more so than anything,
Yeah.
anything
No,
else.
that to me is still very interesting how you jump completely from fashion to automotive, which is like a completely big jump. And then to, pro-aging and, with your cause that you have and everything. It's really big jumps. Like, I know when I first started here was I had a very big jump. I had always been in like the hospitality industry. I was a bartender, worked in restaurants, and then one day I'm working, in adjusting in a storm restoration business, like a complete different industry. But I definitely praise you for making those big jumps, and I know you're definitely doing something very good for your cause.
But that's called evolving, Isabel, right? So as women, we go through our lives and we evolve. What you start out doing is over here is not what you're going to be doing over here, and it's not what you're going to be doing over there. So there's a saying that we throw around a lot: it's never too late and you're never too old to chase another dream, to chase another goal. Why would I stop now when I still have so much value to add, so many lives to impact, so many women to inspire? Why would I stop now? I'm enjoying myself. It's fun for me. I love it, and it's very rewarding.
What do you think you do differently than other women in your industry?
If you're talking about in the space of the pro-aging fitness, the pro-aging community, there's a lot of
Correct.
women. Nobody's really using the modality of boxing most specifically, although I do other things. But I'm not a personal trainer anymore. I don't teach group fitness classes anymore. I'm not trying to sell you any program. I am selling you a mindset. I'm selling you the motivation, inspiration, the vision to open your mind that you could do anything that you want to do. You have to allow yourself the ability to do that. Give yourself permission to explore those different layers that allow you to be in the industry you're in instead of hospitality, right? That you were comfortable in. So I'm
Correct.
approaching it from a little different perspective than others. I'm not selling anything in particular other than myself. I am my brand, and I am the face of certain brands. I am aligned with certain brands. I'm their face. I'm their voice. I write about them, and that's how I contribute, and that's what I want to do. But I want to be on those billboards for those big brands. I will be.
You will
I
be. You will
absolutely
be.
will be.
What it sounds like to me is that Gail is unique. There is no one out there like Gail out that's doing what you're doing. So you might be, you will be actually. Let's be very positive here. You will be one day. We'll be driving down. To all my listeners, one day you're gonna be driving down the road and you're gonna see Gail Gensler on one of those billboards, letting everybody know, what there is to know for her cause.
And thank you for cheering me on. I appreciate that greatly. And the difference also is that I'm an everyday woman. I'm not your stereotypical model, 10 feet tall, the skinny, right? I'm just your everyday woman who has a tremendous amount of discipline and passion for what I do, and great clarity and great self-awareness. And that's very relatable, right? It's much more relatable if I'm looking at a pair of leggings and I see it on a 20-year-old who's like this. I can't really relate to that. Sure, it's going to look good. Why wouldn't it look okay on her? But it's not credible for me, and it certainly is not relatable. And that's the other difference, is that I'm very relatable. And I'm actually kind of funny, too. So you really haven't heard my humor yet, Isabel, but I'm pretty funny.
No, it's fine. I know I could tell you definitely have a lot of self strength as well. You're very confident, which is great. When if you have humor, it's even better. Did you ever find something? Did you ever consider something very intimidating, but you were able to overcome it?
I really, at this point, I'm not intimidated by anything. Absolutely nothing. Do I have my moments of weakness? Of course. But I'm really not intimidated by anything, anybody. I truly feel deep in my heart that I have all the right in the world to be very successful, to do what I'm doing because I'm doing it with authenticity, I'm doing it with kindness, I'm doing it with gratitude, I'm doing it very intentionally. I have every right to be where I am, to be successful. No, absolutely not. And really, I find that people who want to come across as intimidating, really that's cloaking the fact that they're actually kind of insecure themselves.
I agree. You know, I usually, I could kind of agree with you. It's very hard for me to find something intimidating. To me, I feel like it's just a new experience. It's not an intimidating experience. It's just a new experience. You just got to adapt. You take what you can, and to me, it's either yes or it's a lesson learned. That's the way that I take a grasp at it.
At this point, when I look at the failures that I've had, or the lack of achievement is a nicer way to say it, of successful achievement, right? I say, okay, listen, I gave it my best shot. I tried. Maybe if I had the knowledge I have now, the outcome would have been different. But as long as it's been a lesson for me and I can reflect back on it and say that I've evolved and grown since that time, I'm good with it because we're imperfect. No human being is perfect. We all make mistakes in the journey. That's part of being a human being, and it's okay. It's okay. And if it's something that doesn't turn out to be great, like you just said, an adventure, I tried it, it went okay. So what's the worst that happened? I don't have to do it again.
I agree. With that said, would you like to share some tips and advice to everybody listening on how you were able to get up so early in the morning, be so strong throughout the day, and still do it all over again, while becoming a face to brands out there?
It's all about discipline, self-confidence, knowing your worth, believing in yourself fundamentally, and not letting anybody, regardless of gender, stand in your way, because as I stated earlier, you have the right to be successful and to achieve whatever you want, and never doubt your own capabilities. Everybody has different competencies, different talents, and go for it. Just do you, be you, for you. Remember that in my case, for example, age is just a number. I know what I bring to the table. I know the value that I bring. I know what I can add, whether it's in the automotive industry in an organization, or whether it's in the other endeavor, the pro-aging endeavor that I'm in. I know what I bring to the table. And I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. I don't need to be. I need to feel good about myself. And again, as long as you do it with kindness and you're coming at it in the right perspective, if they can't receive it the way that you delivered it, then that's their loss, and that's okay too.
That's true. Would you also like to share where everybody could find you? What are your social handles? Where can they, follow you?
Absolutely. I'm most active on Instagram. That's my favorite platform. You can find me at Gail Gensler, GailGensler. I am also on Facebook, Gail Gensler. I'm on LinkedIn, Gail Gensler. I dabble a little bit in TikTok, not so much, Gail Gensler, but a little bit. And you can certainly go to my website, gailgensler.com. There you will find all of the blogs that I've written, all the brands that I represent, with discounts, by the way, for those brands that I model for and represent and talk about and write about. And you can read a little bit of my story. You can also see a wonderful video business card that my producer, Alex Aguiar, made for me, which is an incredible tool for anybody in business. Take a look at it. It's mind-blowing. He's so talented. And that's where you can find me. So everything is simple. It's all Gail Gensler.
All Gail Gensler. That's very simple. Straight to the point, guys. You guys definitely have to follow Gail. As you can see, she could definitely help you with that confidence, that self-strength. So thank you, Gail, for being on, my podcast. It was a pleasure speaking to you. You always motivate me to wake up early the next morning every time we speak.
I'm glad that I could inspire you. Thank you so much for having me on your show. And I really hope that this shows all women out there that it's all about you. And you can be whoever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want.
I agree. Gotcha. Well, thank you again, guys, for listening to Dominating a Man's World. Today we had Gail Gensler. If you want to follow us, that will be at DAMW Podcast on Instagram, or you can check out our website at www.damwpodcast.com. A strong woman looks a challenge dead in the eye and gives it a wink. Gina Carey. Dominating a Man's World is powered by Bulldog Adjusters, America's leading public adjusting firm that has helped homeowners just like you fight their insurance company to ensure they receive every dollar they deserve for their property damage insurance claim.